What's going on, guys? I hope you're having a nice day. Today we're going to perform a couple of operations in a couple of my bonsai trees, or pre-bonsai trees, due to spring growth. This is a time of the year where, the tree is very active, it's pushing out new growth, and that energy, we can direct it in order to develop the structure of our trees and, get closer to our goals that we have for our little bonsai friends. Anyway, so the first one will be this. You've seen this tree already. It's my little Ficus Microcarpa. It's growing in a colander. And something interesting that we can start with, remember those scars that we have because of the wiring and because it grew very, very fast? You can see that they are slowly but surely starting to heal. So that's very good. I like that. I like that a lot. And what we're going to do today is we're going to prune these. We're actually going to pinch back new growth in order to develop back budding and, we can start to ramify it. Now, remember the golden rule when we perform this type of operations where we prune to ramify or whatnot. Always do it once the new growth is mature, once the leaves are mature. Once the tree is, taking a break after it flushes out that new growth. Okay. Also, never cut out all of the new growth entirely. Always leave a couple of nodes that we can fall back to if we have branch dieback, right? So we can see that we're doing that right here. We're removing a lot of foliage. And since we're removing a lot of foliage, we can also comment on the fact that we should always do this whenever we have a healthy tree. Never perform this when your tree has got a lot of dead branches, a lot of damaged leaves. Never do that. Okay, so we can see right here that this branch is going to be wired down into position. So what we can do is cut this branch, cut back at a point where we can direct future growth. So if we notice that, we can see that there's a leaf right here. This one right here. So that means that the new growth is going to start going a little bit downwards as opposed to this, which is the natural position of the branch. So that's directional pruning. Nigel Sanders, which is one of the leading members of the bonsai community on YouTube, he is a master in directional pruning. We can see this one. We can do the same here. Also, if we want to, vigorize a section of a tree, for example, the lower section of the tree, which is my case, we can prune the upper section of the tree harder, and that's going to vigorize the lower section even further. So that's pretty much it for that lower section. We can see here that we have a very well defined sacrificial branch, and we also have a couple of branches right here that we're actually going to remove because we want new branches, but from these sections of the tree, right? That will give us another branch right here, maybe another back branch, another one, and that's it, the apex. All of this is going to be removed in the future. So we can go ahead and remove that. Okay. Same scenario as with the oaks that we worked with last week. We don't want to remove all of it as we don't want a dead branch in our hands. But yeah, we are sending a clear message to the tree, right? So there we go. Maybe, oh, this leaf right here is very big. So it's not aesthetically pleasing, but we can leave it there. We can see that we've got a lot of foliage, and you know what that means when it comes to ficus cuttings. So this is absolutely no problem. We just move that to the side, and we can see the end result. Right? Sacrificial apex, lower section growing, you know, the main trunk gaining girth, artillery fern raging on. But yeah, so that's the first operation that we're going to perform today. It's very simple, it's very easy, but it's necessary, right? We have to do it. Sometimes, especially if we have a lot of plants, we could very well or very easily neglect our plants, but that shouldn't be the case. What I'm doing right now is also cutting the wire that I had left the last time I cut the wire on this little guy. I just left it on because I had already cut the main section that was biting into the little branch. So that was my bad. But now I'm just removing it completely. Sorry if you can't see very well because of my hand, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay. So that's it, I think. One more little section right here and we'll be done with this little ficus. Sorry if I'm taking so long, but in addition to the fact that I'm working with broken wire cutters, this is a very uncomfortable angle for me, but there. Finished. Okay. I just gotta check the video when I'm done, just to see if you can see only my hands while I'm performing that. I'll just cut that out if it doesn't work. But if it does, well, you'll find out. Okay, so this is the first one, and the other one, I have it right here with me, and it's very similar. It's our bonsai from scratch, right? So this one, it's a bit more simple. We're not going to pinch back, we're not going to prune back to ramify. What we're going to do is get rid of those little leaves that are growing in a corner, just so we can biggerize these little branches that are starting to grow. Okay, we want lateral branches, so we cut these little leaves. Now we can see right there that we get a lot of latex, right? We get a lot of sap. Which means that the tree is very active, and that's very good. You see? This one, and finally this one. Okay, that's it. That's it for this one. Because as we can see, oh, we have another one right here. Maybe that can be our main branch in the future. There we go. That's it. We're not going to cut much more from this because this is just starting, right? So we need to let it biggerize. We need the foliage so it can create its food with those shiny, bright, and new solar panels, right? So we can see that it's doing well. In the future, we can think about wiring and you know, ramifying and placing branches into position. But right now, it looks like that. I forgot, now that we're moving on to project number 3, I forgot to Google the scientific name for these little fellas right here. I don't know their scientific name, I just know their common name, and in Spanish. So what I'm going to do is look it up, and then I'll put it on the description. So we can see that we have 3 right here. They're growing in the same pot. Colander, zeolite, pretty standard procedure for these little guys. So what we want for these ones is lateral branches, right? We want lateral branches because we can see that they're just a pencil cover in leaves. And what we can do in order to encourage that is what we already did with the oaks, right? So we're going to go ahead and start to defoliate the upper section of the tree, right? I will normally do this by hand, but this species in particular has got thorns in every junction, in every little node, right? So I'm using my pruners. Okay. If we're careful, I guess we could just remove these little leaves. So as with the oaks from the previous video, this is going to encourage new growth in the lower section of the tree. If we pay close attention, we can already see that there are some little branches that are emerging from the sections of the tree where we want them, and that's very good. We can also see that we've got a fairly decent little trunk. So after the new growth has emerged and set, we can start to think about wiring. If we have a very long trunk like this, we can be very, very, drastic when it comes to the wiring. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. What I'm going to do is wire it into a very dramatic moyogi. It's going to be a chohin size, or maybe a chuhin size. But yeah, I'm going to be very dramatic with the wiring. Same with this one. Well, this is going to be much smaller. And this one, I think I'm going to give it a little movement, but not a lot. Right? So that's it for our second little tree. We can see the end result here. Just a little bit of growth in the upper section of the tree, but one section that will be completely devoid of foliage, right? Sacrificial apex, the section of the tree where we want new growth, right? So this in Spanish is called guamuchi. I think the scientific name has something to do with the word sweet, dulce. So I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to Google the name, right? This grows in the wild here. So I collected these as little saplings, no, little seedlings that were growing out of cracks in the ground. Birds love to eat the fruit because it produces a little fruit. And, they scatter the seed around. So they're nice. I've always liked them because they have a nice reddish color to their bark once they age, and the leaves are super small and in pairs like this. So this is going to be a nice little tree in the future. Okay. So as the second one or third one? Yeah, I think it's the third one. And finally, I'm going to set the camera down. Finally, we're going to focus on this little guy right here. Our little Himalayan cedar, our little bonsai from scratch, the one that we've been fertilizing with organic fertilizer. Now, it's very simple what we're going to do with this one. We can see that it's, the wiring is biting into the little bark. So what we're going to do is go ahead and remove that. In the future, near future, maybe this summer, we can start to think about rewiring if it hasn't set into position. So be very careful when you cut the wires, just so that we don't hurt the little tree. There we go. Inevitably, sometimes we do end up hurting it, but it's not something that's permanent, and it's something that the new this little new plant can take easily, right? What we can do is remove only the section that's biting into the tree and just leave the other section and remove in the future. Look at that. It's a shame that it looks like that right now, But since it's growing at such an accelerated rate, in the future it will absolutely be nothing to worry about. Okay, so we continue removing. I think that's it for the time being. The rest is not so tight, just because we didn't require as much strength to keep the little branches into position. As we can see, it's growing and growing and growing, and that's awesome. That's very, very cool. Now, after this little needles have set, after, you know, the new needles have fully developed, what we're going to do is cut them so we can develop back budding. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We can see that it's growing and growing. We performed a couple of jobs today. I hope you liked this video, and if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, please drop them down below and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, so hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.